So this is Baruch, and it's Erev Shabbat. It's getting late, but I messed up the shir in the morning that I wanted to do, and as a result of that, I wanted to re-say it. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is over here. But basically, what we've gotten to four different parts of prayer that have to do with the Yud K Vav K. The Yud refers to the Kriya Shema. The first K refers to Tefillin. The Vav refers to Tzitzis. The final K refers to Tefillah, which is Malchus. So here he gave formulas for a Tikun if you forgot to do it. So then I have to go back over that because I'd like to try it, but in my own time and try to be able to a lot to remember. I have a good idea what's happening in Tzitzis, because Tzitzis that's what we've been learning all this time. We're about to get into the subject of tefillin in the next part of this sefer. But let me go over this, and not counting the actual learning how to do these particular kavanos. Let's take a look at what the Rav says. Inyan Pratim the Tika the Begame Manal. So this is the Tiva Kavanos. Tiva Kavanos says he has a little brief intro. So if you made a Begamen, then what to do or what's going on. So we already know there's formulas for fixing the flow. So the place where we have the Kavana for these Yehudim, the Kavi Bechem called Yichud B'Makomo. Everyone has a Yichud when you come to the place where it's normally supposed to say, in other words, the Yud, which referred to the Kriya Shema, you should have the Kavana in mind. So he said, the Kavi Bechem called the Yichud B'Makomo. Ketzad, Kashatom B'Chud Kriya Shema of the Shachris or the Arabis, let's say like this. You're saying the Kriya Shema day or night. Ki Elohim Bilvad Mitzvah Saseh, because the Mitzvah Saseh is really only at nighttime, because it says B'Shav Kov Kumecho, which the Tiv is going to bring. So before you do any of the mitzvahs, you should have in mind this yichud. Now I'm thinking that he wants you to have this in mind, this yichud, whether or not all the time. That's what I'm thinking, not just when you forgot to say, for example, Kriya Shema. So when you put on tefillin, the kaven beyichud shalom, then there's a yichud that's a special yichud, which would be the first K. And when you go to put on tzitzis, the kaven beyichud shalom, so there's a special yichud of how you combine and at what stage you put the four letters of the Yud K Vav K. Yud K, so when you the Shmona Esrei, which is the Amida, Shehi Gam came mitzvah saseh, which is also, he says, is a positive commandment. Erev avokas v'tzahorayim. You have to say it night and morning, and midday. Yekaveh beyichud shalo, so you should have, in other words, that's mincha time. Yekaveh beyichud shalo, so you have in mind each one, all of those times as a special yichud. Achar sheyomer Hashem sefasai tiftach, and when do you do this for tefillah? You're going to do this for this with the yichud that goes with it. In other words, a combination of letters in their different stages. After you say the interface, which is Shem Sefasai Tiftach, and before you start the Birchas Avos. Now let's see on number Kuf Yud Ches real quickly here what we could get out of the Tivuk Gavana. So the Tivuk Gavana says, V'hata Gavavai Rav Heichon Kum B'komo Shal Kol Yichud B'yichud Macha Yichudim and Nizkarim. So if you're wondering what to do, in other words, let's say you forgot to say Kriya Shema. So this, which can happen, and yet especially if you're davening with Ashkenaz, who like to make early Kriya Shema, then you forget, you say it at the wrong time, and you forget to say it at the right time. That's, I think, unfortunately, with that style is very common. Because Yichud Maharba Yehudim, although so each one of the Yehudim that we're talking about, Shechem Yichud Kriya Shema, Yichud Tefillah, Yichud Tzitzis, and he's calling them Yehudim, Yichud Tefillah, Yesh Tekavanah B'Bekomo, you have to have kavanah for it in the place where it normally would be said. So you forgot to do Kriya Shema, so now you're coming to Kriya Shema. This is the way I understand it at this point. Before you say Kriya Shema, you should have the kavanah for the Tikun for the letter Yud of the Yud K Vav K. Kavanah say Yichud Shal Kriya Shema Ki Be'ez Kriya Shema B'Boker B'Shachris. So that's when it's supposed to be said. Of a lot of the fetus Arvis. So let's say you forgot the Kriya Shema at Arvis, then you would say this before you said the Kriya Shema. He says, Ki mitzvahs asay the Kriya Shema. He rak b'shtei pamim b'yom. There's really only twice a day that you have the actual the chiyuv. Behind it, because that's what it says. Over kavanas yichud shel Kriya Shema. When you come to the yichud of Kriya Shema, yesh the kavim kodem sheyaskel lekros Kriya Shema. So you should have the kavanah before you begin to read the Kriya Shema. V'chein kodem anachas tefillin. And so the same thing is before you put on tefillin. That's the time. In other words, before you would do the normal mitzvah, you should have this in mind. Now I'm thinking that he's really I'm going to look at it more closely. That he's really saying, this is what I'm thinking, that he's saying this is also kavanah, even if you didn't mess it up, that you'd have these kavanahs in mind. So then, and then you say, let's say mitzvah, let's say and also before you put the tzitzis on. You should have that idea. The Amida. She nikras tefillas amida, which is called the amida is called tefillah. The hind of a bechol shlosh tefillah shem chakras menchus and arbis. That those three tefillos going on. Let's say a little bit more. He says shitas. So then he stops like this. He says like this. Turns around. Shitas aravi. Shloshas tefillas amida. That the three times that we say the amida, shehem arbis chakras and menchus. Kulam heim mitzvahs aseh, they're all considered to be mitzvahs aseh, and they're in other words that you have a chiyuv to say them. If you miss them, it's a problem. B'kolim et tefillah, you come in as the yichud the tikun mitzvahs at tefillah. So if you miss mincha, then this is a kavanah that you could do to put the mincha back and make the flow the best possible way. So now we're going to number kuf lamed aleph, and it says like this: the yichud the mitzvahs at tefillah. So this yichud, we're talking about the mitzvahs tefillah. You should have the kavanah after you say the pasuk Hashem Sefasai Tifto, because you're still halfway in between universes. Because the Shemaskil Tavis Baruch Atah, before you begin this, the Tefillas Amida. So that's the time we're supposed to say that, and that's the shir here. This is Baruch Fleischman. In the morning drush here on Sitzah says we're getting close to the end of this particular drush.